we're going live to YouTube, preparing to live stream the webinar. So we're here. Woo. We're live.
Oh, hello, Iceland.
Hello. Someone from Iceland? Hello. Hello, we're all here. We're welcome from Argentina, Canada, Germany, and I know Clement's from Switzerland. He emailed us the other day. We have Chris here from Oregon, Michael from Florida, Mike Carroll from Pennsylvania, Lindsay and Erik are joining us from Stockholm. I don't know where they are on your screen. Jay Silver's here from Florida. And we have Claire too from Santa Cruz down here running some tech support for us. And also just being super awesome. So hello, everybody. This is going to be a fun and wild hour of invention literacy because we have two of the most energetic people we know right here with us live who are great. We as we said right before this, as Jay said, is this what we have to do to get us all together? Like we got to just hang out more because it's pretty fun when we all get together. So we're going to talk about invention literacy. We're going to have a lot of fun and we're going to ask you to participate a lot in chat. So I'm glad to see everybody saying hello. Actually, I did notice a lot of these do say hello just to the panelists. So make sure that you, on your chat, you have it switched to say panelists and attendees so you can say hello. See, I've got another Texan in here. We've got Tom from California. Lynn is here from New York City and Erik from Denver. So that's pretty fun. Do we have it? It actually is a good time for New Zealand. We could have a New Zealander, Australian here maybe. Still a little early, like 6 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And we have Canadians and Germany. Just had to get back to the top. I don't know if you guys saw Jay, but Lindsay was talking about banana harem pants before we started. And I found some kid banana harem pants. I had to send those to you because I feel like it's something all the Joy kids.
You say kid size?
Kid size banana harem pants.
I'm on the wait list for the adult version. It's very long.
So am I wearing the kid size ones?
No, they're for your kids. Oh, hi, Tracy. Tracy's here too. She was in our occupational therapy it was a workshop, but it was like a semester long thing we did last year. All right. Intros quit. So I already said I'm Colleen. I'm from Makey. I create content. I run our community. I do these webinars. And Lindsay is my BFF. I don't know which way she is for you. She's right there for me.
So I'm Lindsay. I'm tuning in from Stockholm, Sweden. I'm American, but I love Sweden. I love working with Colleen. I'm happy to be here with Jay Silver and Erik Thorstensson. So I also make content, do webinars, community. So I'm basically Colleen squared, her clone in Sweden. So that's me. So pass it on to Erik. I think you're right here in my screen.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Hi. Yeah, I'm Erik. Here in Gothenburg, Sweden. I'll come into some more of what our history of invention and stuff later also. So I'm playing around, sitting in my kids' room because there's no studio here right now. So this is really fun. So we can shift around and show some stuff. 27 rooms of dollhouses back there.
Oh my gosh.
That sometimes get animated and there's scary stuff in there, so we won't show that too much.
Thanks, Erik. And then below me, maybe I'm above him. I have no idea. There's Jay Silver.
Hey, I am a guy who once played the Invention game with Erik in New York City 6 years ago. And I guess we're playing that game again today. And I most recently have been running the research and development at Joylabz and spend a lot of time lately working on Game Bender so that we can get that out soon. And also some new invention media like talks and network kind of stuff.
He's our R&D lab of Makey.
With Murillo and Will.
I was just being funny. So we want to talk about invention literacy because it's something Jay kind of talked about I don't know how many years ago was that now. That's like part of how I even ended up being on the team at Makey was that Jay was working on invention literacy and the concept of it. And I was like, hey, this is what I'm doing in my library. Like, this is what my makerspace is. We are looking at how stuff works and we're building our own prototypes of those things. And then we even did a whole couple of research projects together where Jay actually came and talked to my students and saw the inventions they made. And it was really fun and amazing. And we'll put the link to that original post from Medium in chat here in a second. And we just kind of wanted to do a deep dive on it because Erik also made a YouTube video about invention literacy, and it's something that's close to all our hearts. So, yeah.
It's one of just that thing when I saw you coin that term, was like, this is what we've been talking about. Sometimes you can't just find, like, that's an invention in its own, to find that anchor in my brain. This makes perfect sense. That's what it's about. Because I was just running, like, that's one of the things I really want to unlock. It's like, I called it like the Harry Potter moment, when you think you can see the secret things in the world around you, but there's secret things in everything, how it works. Like, you start deconstructing, and it was such a beautiful term. So I just like, yes.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I've been calling that process of making words like that lately, like terminologification or whatever. Like, there's probably other words for that. I don't know if that's really good, but there was a moment in time where that term didn't exist, and I've been trying to be more systematic about doing this way more often. I'll even show some examples probably today if there's time in the presentation for it. But where there was no invention literacy, but there was this sense that there was traditional literacy of reading and writing, and there was quantitative literacy, or maybe even scientific literacy. And then there was this like sense that there wants to be a new literacy, like 21st century literacy or digital literacy or something, is what words that people were using. But to me, those felt like not about, they didn't feel like they'd be around 100 years from now. They didn't feel like they are fundamental to what humans are. And they didn't feel like they were like that they would predict new pathways forward for all of us to travel down to be able to make positive changes in the world. They just felt like they were kind of describing, oh, we need a name for tech or something, or we need a name for something. So it was in reaction to those that I'm like, there's got to be something here. And I don't even know for sure if invention literacy is the final one, but it is this like, there's just something so human about making the world change. Yeah. And so, or making ourselves change, which is the one special case of making the world change that doesn't fit into making the world change. And so it just felt like there's got to be a practice of that. It almost is like, how do we even get numeracy and traditional literacy? Those are inventions. Damn it, this is fundamental.
Yeah.
And one thing that I think is really cool about that I learned from just hanging out with you, I guess, is that, you know, there's that one video, I think you have like 2 1-minute videos where you just talk about, we can see the way the world works and we can create new inventions from that. So like learning to read an invention, create a new invention, is something I think Makey taught me how to do, right? Like, I now see, oh, it's backwards for me. I can see that, well, this is a yogurt cup, right? But this is not a yogurt cup. This is a tilt sensor, right? I can use this. I can see it as a new thing. And to me, the Makey helps me do that, but I don't have to necessarily use that. I could use straws and maybe this becomes a hat.
Well, and even when you say this is a yogurt cup, another way to say that is somebody came up with a mechanism for forming plastic, digging oil out of the earth, and also that thing that you have there has a shape, has a hardness, has a conductivity, has a way that it is and interacts in the world depending on what you do with it and what else you do with it. And it has ways it can be taken apart and put back together in ways that it can't be. And that you could say that instead of saying it's a yogurt cup.
Right, but also it's like different components are kind of like the different words in a sentence, and you can put your sentences together in lots of different ways once you mix up the grammar and the language that you're using. So if we look at inventions in the same way as like I think you were talking about that yesterday, each thing has its own history of each invention has its own history. So inside this has a thumbtack, and like, what is a thumbtack? Is its own invention. So we're going to play a little game that Lindsay came up with, which is, what is a different way to use a pair of pants? But we're also going to kind of use just to guide our work. This is not a yogurt cup. This is a tilt sensor. Or this is not a chair. This is a hat. If anybody saw the VMAs this week, saw a chair that was a hat. So we're asking Jay and Erik to find something in their household that they can read as an invention and then recreate it into something else. What's some other way you could use it? And everyone who's on the call can look at something in their immediate grasp. What is this? What's some other way I could use this thing? What invent it? Am I saying it right, Lindsay, or is there more to say?
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so the format is this is not a blank, and we find the blank somewhere around us. We say instead it is a, and whatever it is, right? Is that the format? So it's like a map. And then we didn't talk about like guidelines or clues or anything. I mean, there's no rules, just do it any way you want. But if you need a little help along the way, you might, if you're looking at something and you're like, I don't know what else this is, you might look at its component parts, like the push pin that was inside of the of the bowl. That is one of the components. And then you might also look at its properties. So the push pin, while it's a component, it also has properties like sharpness, so therefore it can penetrate and puncture things, or it has smallness, so it can fit inside of things, or it has a weight, which is either heavy or light, and it has a conductivity. So you can look at properties and you can also look at components, and that might be a little clue to unlocking the second blank after you pick what goes in the first one.
Exactly. And I mean, for me, that's where the process that I use, we talk about, is like the sense of play, to analyze, to find this without having the vocabulary. You find out what this thing can do. But I like sometimes by hurting yourself with on the pin, it's sharp. But obviously that's quite an easy read. But but this is the thing, to just play around with the object, the thing. That's one way of decoding it without knowing exactly how things work. So that's a perfect clue, and it's something that that I was really happy when Lindsay suggested this, because it's a thing that I do, and I also do it like I kind of tease my daughter by saying that this is another thing, and she says, no, it's this, but look at this, it actually works for that blank. So we can try this.
Like you could take a coat hanger. This is not a coat hanger, it's a s'more cooker. It's a hot dog cooker.
Yeah, this was something that I really loved actually teaching my students in San Francisco, that whenever I had a large classroom group of like 30 students, one of the first things we did is like, because they were visiting groups of students, and to get them kind of warmed up into the process, I would kind of gather them in a circle, and we would just find something random in the room. So usually I was kind of improv. I find this like construction tube. I found a garlic press one time for some reason in the classroom, and then we just passed it around. Oh, I actually have a garlic press, because actually doing this game reminded me exactly of that. But we would pass it around, and it was sometimes like students were really, they needed the experience of like, what is this? This is not a garlic press. This is a cooling device. So it was just a quick experimentation of using something, and it was like you were passed it on and you had to kind of think about it, but we gave you time. If you needed a minute, we gave you time. But we also didn't want other kids to tell you. We wanted you to kind of draw your own conclusion. Some kids that didn't want to speak, they would kind of act it out. They would just kind of be like, I don't know what it is, but it's this. And you didn't really know what it was just yet. But that's why I really wanted to, try this exercise with both of you, Erik and Jay, that I definitely would love to see what your version of this would be.
So are we starting the exercise now?
Yeah.
We need like music, like silly cartoon music or something.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to make it for you. What's the MacGyver theme song? Let's do the MacGyver theme song.
No, it's not that.
Hang on.
I think what I love about this is also you see Jay in the background searching. Erik is searching in his space.
Oh wait, let me put it on gallery view for everyone so they can all see that. There you go. We can see them searching. I'll play the MacGyver theme song.
I found a nice thing.
It's just in my ears. Can you hear it? I don't think it's playing on me.
Nope. You got to share your audio.
But everybody hears.
How would I share only sound? Can I share only sound?
Yes, and share screen. Well, I can't walk you through because I can't share screen, but There is a share audio feature, I think, in the second tab.
In the advanced tab,
I think so.
computer audio. Okay, here you go. Turn it down a little. Oh, what's Jay doing?
Oh,
And everybody else is supposed to be doing this too, right?
Yeah.
Everybody do.
Nobody sit at your
Okay.
desk. Get up and find some stuff.
Yeah, I have
Oh, I found something.
stuff found.
Ooh, I found another thing.
Just gonna test that you can see here. If I, yeah.
Why do I have? What am I going to do with these two things?
Oh, I wanted that too. Oh, there's a lot of things here. The end of the theme song when we have to figure it out. Sometimes the stress is like.
That was a stressful song, I think. I don't know if I could have come up with a better theme song for us. Let me find us. What else can I play?
You could do that one more time. I need one more MacGyver.
Okay, one more MacGyver.
Or backwards.
Is there a rule you have to invent something in the time that the MacGyver theme song is up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to invent something in that
It's a
time.
hard one, but it actually, it would work if you have a really, 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 really limited set of things to invent with. That's when
We just need a
This works
a
again.
montage in real life. Can you get a montage?
yeah.
You need a montage.
I have it.
Oh man. I hope everyone is writing their things. You should be able to see in gallery mode, but I'll make sure that should have put you in gallery view there, Lynn. I'm sorry about that.
Let's see. But this one is the best one.
Oh, hi, Susanna from New Zealand. I don't feel like I have enough time to make an invention. All right.
But inventions don't have to, like, some things don't have to be the complex.
It's not necessarily an invention, right? It's just like, hey, this key is also a thing to scrape off a lottery ticket, but it's also a way to open a box, but it's also like.
Exactly. I think that's the power of association and putting it in another context, and it's that's the thing. I found this.
What is that? Is that a
Yeah,
mouse?
what is it?
Oh, no, it's a brush.
Yeah, but it's not a brush.
What is it now?
When am I allowed to show the invention?
Now, do it.
yeah,
No.
share.
It's not a brush. It is a Polaroid picture carousel.
That's
Ooh,
good.
So here, that's my daughter a year
Cute.
ago, and let's see what's on the other. Yeah, this is not the mosquito net. It's a really cool veil. And that's me sleeping. But you could, for example, pick out your chores. I'm just going to show you how it works. Because my analysis here was springing with it. It has a rounded corner, so you can spin it. and you
Cool.
get
Oh.
picture. Every spin, you can pick, like, you can have it as a game or just like, it's my Polaroid picture carousel from It's Not a Brush. So that's one of them today. So I'm really pleased with this. Just testing the spinniness, and we have lots of little Polaroids.
That was good. I'm typing what you said. I'm trying to type it, but you wrote, I can't spell Polaroid or carousel.
And so
No,
what are the
those are
properties
hard.
of that? It has clippiness, it has spinniness.
Yeah,
Those are things that you noticed either by accident or by touching it or
That's the
intentionally
thing.
by thinking
the
about it.
important thing here was exactly that. I was, you're looking at the objects, and I see potential. This has some spikiness. These are like, you can even see this is disgusting though, because this hair I've tried to remove, but I won't go too close. But you see, there's a lot of different little. You can see that this would probably be able to hold things. What things could I hold? Like, those are the things. My association.
So in yoga, if you have a desire, they don't just say you have a desire. They say, oh, like, we can break this down into 3 things that happen in 1.7 seconds, some of which happen in 0.1 second. There's the initial contact with the emotional attachment to something that then tells your, your amygdala something else, and then some process happens, and suddenly you say to yourself, oh, I want ice cream. But that, you can break it down into smaller parts. So what you did also is repurpose that a little bit, but you actually didn't just repurpose it. You didn't think of it spinning and clipping pictures at the same time. One came first, and then, the other, that was the big breakthrough. It spins too, and
and then you're like, for me, it all comes from this fun, like micro, like it's fun to show what it can do. Like, there has to be a mini amount. For me, that's one of my.
I'm glad you said micro, because also in a slide I'm going to show micro creativity, and there's also such thing as micro inventing, which is just even when you think the key scratches off the lottery ticket, that's already a known invention. When the tack can also be a trap to endanger somebody when you flip it up and put it down on the ground. Those are known cartoon inventions, but those are still like steps toward. Those are like steps that have already been laid out that you can start to follow. And there's other micro creativity and micro inventions where you say, oh, well, I could stick something in this. Maybe not a picture. First, you're like, I can stick my finger in it. Well, that's dumb. It's not leading anywhere. Okay. I can stick something else in, and then you can stick the picture in it. But all those steps were micro creative steps.
Yeah. But sorry. I'm just.
You keep going, Eric.
That's one thing that happens. One really good way of actually starting, for example, we can just touch upon micro inventions, is not knowing what a thing does. Because then you go through this process. For me, it comes, I think most of us actually, I can't really pull the data from that, but you start like, what is this? It opens up your curiosity and you start testing it. Then you're going through this analysis phase that we're a little bit done now to the Makey music. But it's a really good way of coming up with a new way, not knowing what this object was. And that's one of the, I did a lot of workshops, because for me, it's so much fun. Like, I can just invest this with fun, and everybody will be having fun just to get, it's one way of just getting running, getting your mind running, and making that space where you actually are allowed to kind of get it wrong, because getting it wrong can be really right. We're not trying to find what it actually is. We're trying to find the best use for this thing, for example, or not best use.
Not best, but like, what could I do with it right now?
It's not best use for me or for you. That's also like reinventing your surrounding. This is how this brush is used in my household, because that's what I like it, and also it gives you joy when you figure something out like that. Like I can feel micro joy from this very simple invention right now.
When I did invention literacy as a research project with students at school, what I would do is ask them, like, what is an invention you want to know more about, and then how can you, so we're going to learn about it, and then how can you recreate that invention? So they could have looked at, a spinning carousel photo frame and said, now I'm going to recreate it and make something like what you made. So I think that's just for the teachers out there, giving them like a research aspect to how does this work? Like, who came up with the clothespin and how does it work? Like, I took this clothespin and I really wanted to make a tripwire that would set off this ghosty. I don't have enough time to do this, but set off the ghost so that when I, something's in between these two and I walk past and it turns the light on, right? Like, it just trips it off. I don't know. That's just what I wanted to do when I found these two things.
Yeah.
Jay, what did you find? What are you trying to do over there?
An old trick in inventing is to smash two things together and then see what happens. And you don't even know always ahead of time, but sometimes you start diving with it and sometimes you don't. So I went for tape right away. And there's a lot of ways to smash two things together, not just tape. In fact, one of the most effective resumes that I've ever seen, at the bottom of it said, I know how to glue anything to anything, which is actually very difficult to do. And being able to attach things together is very useful in all kinds of construction, but also in inventing. So here are some hooks that were on my pegboard, and so they're still hooks. So I didn't really change their purpose, but now they're like traveling hooks with me. So now I can use them however I want to use them. So that tape got me that. Here are these cool glasses that make you see like rainbows everywhere. So I'm going to turn those into a filter for the webcam.
Nice.
Yes.
So again, I'm not really transforming their not everything. I'm still using them as a lens or whatever, but with the help of the piece of tape, I can hold it here, and with any luck, I can have it stay there. It's a little bit difficult inventing things sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Always do what you want.
But you need that, the endurance you're showing now. It's that's what you need.
And
go
then
through.
I have this. This is a spoon.
Whoa.
Which is now taped to this tripod, and I was eating my lunch, but it's still gonna be a spoon in a sense, but it's gonna have a new name. I didn't name it yet, but I'm gonna eat in a new way. I'm not gonna use the spoon to eat, so I'm gonna pick up some rice like that.
Oh,
Eat it like that.
that's kind of assistive tech you made there.
And
I did have some, like, I wanted to put this fabric over this just for light diffusion and see. Look, it actually looks so much spookier.
ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
And I just wanted to. I was trying to hunt for this image, so maybe I can show it in front of the camera. So, because another thing that happens, this is something that I really, as I told you before, enjoy. But I wanted to challenge myself to figure something out from this room today. But then I also have a time. There's this wonderful moment from this summer when I forgot my bathing shorts and I needed to go like bathing anyway, and you say I have to use it because it's in a public space in Sweden. But so I used my regular underpants, but then after that they have to dry, but there's no place to dry it because there's lots of people everywhere. So I use this. This is not a kite. This is a vertical clothesline. So I actually put on clothespins on my on the kite line because there was enough wind and sun. So I just raised them up really far up. So I had all the clothes hanging, and my wife's sister, she was like, "Your husband is crazy," but it's kind of fun. Yeah, but I want to show like the first example here. Here you can see those are now my underpants on a kite, 50 meters up, drying really fast.
So they're overpants, Erik.
Overpants.
There really is something in naming something. So like, if we do call this like a static utensil, and then everybody knows, hey, we're coming to a static utensil party, we're all going to eat this way, where we bring our plates up to the utensil and then we bring our mouths up to the utensil. Or if we're all going to say like, oh, we're going to make a maker clothing, and we're actually like, or that we are all going to see like we're all going to use a lens, like this isn't just glasses taped to the computer. Now let's make it a little more official. We'll call it like rainbow zoom, rainbow zoom time or something like that. Now it's a thing, you can ask for it. It has a handle, a verbal handle, so you can reference it.
Exactly, and I think it's more important to us than we think. It's also a really great part of the exercise, coming up with this. Like, it's not necessarily brand; it's a mental hook, as you said. And another thing we did was, for me and a friend, we were singing a lot back in university, and that's a lot of where this invention thing came from, because it's also like forcing you to do stuff. But one thing we did was invented all these utility ties. So it's ties with utility inside. And the utility ties, we just came up with new ones. So every time we came in and did a performance, I had one that had a square little you put on a tablecloth, or what you call that, a little nice, you can put a little dining experience for somebody for two in my tie, which was great. And there are lots of those. So we were just challenging ourselves with one simple concept and trying to surprise each other also live with that.
And now it's easy to remember that name. You have a photo spinner on your hair, it's a hairbrush, but it's a photo spinner, it's a utility. Now we all remember it's this static utensil. That's a terrible name. We need to come up with a better name. But as you come up with these names, they become viral in the sense of your own mind remembering them. Yeah.
And also the thing is, when it's a good hook, it's in your friends, and with like, so then you'll come back to that as a fun memory also. But sometimes they stick, like utility is really stuck in our network of friends back from university. It's fun.
Teresa says this is not a clothespin. This is a alligator clip organizer.
Oh.
I like that. This is not a bag of tennis balls. This is a massage device. That's smart. We had someone say this is not a fidget toy. It's a cat distractor, which was fun.
How do you launch a Skittle? That sounds so fun.
Wait, but someone must have talked only to the panelists. I don't see anything about Skittles. That sounds
see.
fun.
No, it's separate. This is not a stapler. This is a Skittle launcher.
Oh, I like it. Oh, I
Isaiah-
just didn't see it. Yeah.
Oh, I just launched my staples across like this. But I got one good one, but the rest are kind of falling apart.
So we also wanted to take the idea of what you made and think about yes and, because it's something that we see a lot in inventing, but also in just like it's a great thing to think about in all forms of school. But how could we put our inventions together? So how could we put the vertical clothesline with Jay's spoon feeder and make a new invention?
Oh, how cool would it be to actually just like load up bites of food? They probably couldn't be on a spoon, but however they needed to be, whether it was like a fruit that was already edible or something like that, and try to fly it on a kite and have people trying to jump and eat off of it. That'd be so ridiculous. Or hang food on a clothesline or something like that.
Yeah. Oh no, I see. Like one process that comes, like the food on the clothesline. There's something to it. It's also something happening with what comes to mind for me is the weight of the objects will affect where in height they are. So, for example, being sun-dried tomatoes, you know that they're like the kites will be really high up when they're dry. Before that, they were hanging down because it's lots of moisture.
Well, it's like it's going to
But
test
I always
it for
come
you.
into this utility.
Oh my God,
thing.
it's a sun-dried tomato maker.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that how it's made?
See, and I'm sitting here trying to think of like how I could feed someone with the spoon if it was attached to the clothesline, or maybe it's just like maybe it's part of the giant cat distractor, because everybody has decided we're going to take all the things together and make a giant cat distractor,
Everything's a
which
cat
would be fun.
distractor, or put the spoon on the rotating photo carousel.
That's good.
And have it be a food flinger, like a food fight weapon or something like that.
Oh yeah. Then you can add it to a chain reaction. Who was that? Joseph's Machines that makes like those amazing. He had something with the spoon thing where he had to like eat something, and then it made I can't remember what it did, but
Put the photos on the kite so you can display them if they're big enough.
oh, an outside photo. That's nice.
Hang tools on your kite string so that they're ready for you if you're flying through the air. Hey, that idea was a dead end. Okay, that's all right.
Exactly. But
Yes,
yes, and exactly. That's one of my favorite things was like, but another thing when you it was just fun to test what's the capacity of this kite, because so I actually did something similar, but it wasn't tools. It was the kids' sandbox items that just went up on that string, and that was not popular. So it's a dead end in many ways. But it was also really fun for me. But then I had to retract that. I was just checking out how much capacity does this vertical clothesline actually have, and I didn't have more clothes, but I had lots of buckets and little rakes and stuff.
I'm still kind of laughing about the underwear flying in the air because it's
the over air pants.
Over air
There
pants.
could also be a filter of sorts where you see the photos, but sometimes you see the person behind it as it spins. It's a bad filter because it's opaque, but it's not totally useless.
But I think those things where it like all those like have the ones that kind of stop. There might still be something in them, from another perspective, or it always like you don't know it then. So I still save all these things in a way because I don't know where I'm trying to get up, but somebody was actually commenting on it's okay to actually figure this out, to know that it's okay to just go on with these ideas, go really, really lateral. And then the first one of them might not even be, you don't like it really, it's not good. But then you're looking back, something has happened and your association has picked it into a new context that wasn't there. And then it's great. So that happens a lot if you just have this on. That association model.
And I think that's like really tying into the original article of Invention Literacy and the idea of the magic of making, and how it's kind of like an alchemy process where you're kind of just testing things and trying them out, and it's very magical when something snaps and it works. Like the way the brush just magically worked as a Polaroid spinner thing was really cool. And even the spoon actually could be a very good assistive tech device for someone who, you know, can't use their hands to eat, right? They have a way now they can find a way to eat. So
I never would have been thinking that, but now we come together and then the idea gets spun around some more. Now we have these loose parts to play with, but the loose parts aren't basic loose parts anymore. They're combined loose parts. So now we have a spoon on a tripod, which is now a loose part that Colleen can take, and the kite with something attached to it is now actually not even a loose part, right? Immediately when you see the pants on the kite string becomes a kind of a substrate that you want to conjugate with. So it's actually like not just a part, but it's a part. It's like a trope or something that you want to revisit over and over again. What else can I attach to the kite string? And if you've got things that you know you like attaching to things, then you run all of those across the kite string until you find one that kind of sticks. And then you say, okay, so there's these mechanisms come into play where the inventions themselves start cross multiplying, and the act of doing it over and over again leaves a whole bunch of muscles, like invention muscles that you get from practicing.
I just thought about how fun a kite string would be for a zip line, for like a little Lego minifig zip line.
The thing is, this is actually, you're touching on something that's really interesting here, because one thing that happened at this very occasion that actually I've used as an invention since, because it was really cool. It started out with this fun just thing. And what you said now, that zipline thing, it works in the reverse on the kite string. You put light objects, they zoom up to the top of the kite.
Oh, cool.
It's amazing. You're adding potential energy from the wind. And I have never seen that applied. So obviously I had to make a robot that zips up a line and then drops off. But I haven't showed this yet. But it's so now you get the inside scoop of one of my future fun. I don't know what to use it for, but it's amazingly fun. It's the
sounds like a great ridiculous invention.
Yeah, it's just, but it's like it comes from my once again my sister-in-law there. She just put one of those really lightweight scarves on, and it just went 60 meters up before I could blink, like far up, because I have 250 meters of string on that, so I did an eyeball. I wasn't up at 250 meters because you're not allowed to in Sweden because airplanes can come there. So
I think we're seeing though, like what you guys, I could never remember the name from the tinkering studio of the prototypes that they say, like half-baked prototypes. Oh my gosh, it came to my brain just now. That's what you just made, right? Everything you just did was like a half-baked prototype. And I think that the reason I want to say it is because we also called them crappy prototypes when we couldn't think of a good word. But I think as educators, we often feel that we have to come to our students. I'm trying to like look for something like really, here you go. So here's like a really, really well done LED sewn into a donut, right? But when you do something like this, it's not as like accessible for the kid as when I take an LED and a battery and I just go like that. Right. So I think that the showing this process of you making these half-baked prototypes or 1/4 baked prototype and how we just kind of play with the idea of inventing is really important, because that is really like the idea of invention literacy is like, I can just look at something and think about it and try to find a new way to use it. And it doesn't have to be a beautiful invention in the end. Like, it's not something yet, but maybe after we do the yes and we tie all these different strings together, it does become like a fully fledged thing that we're creating and sharing with others.
I like how Christine said, instead of a kite string, you can generalize to dental floss and other things like that. And then whatever you were using the kite string for before, now you can do the same things with dental floss. And so what you start to get is a cross multiplication. You start to get this space, like a matrix or a table or whatever. And at first it's like one-dimensional because it's like a kite with clothes on it. And then it becomes two-dimensional because it's a kite with anything you can think of. And then you start listing off things, and then kite is up here and it becomes this two-dimensional table. But then if you say, but instead of kite, it could also be any kind of string, then it becomes this three-dimensional kind of matrix, and you start to expand the possibilities. And there's only going to be some spots in there that are going to really light up. But as you start to expand them, you traverse this huge area really quickly. And I'm glad that she said dental floss instead of kite string.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're getting closer and closer to the later half of the hour, and then we have some panel questions and answers we wanted to talk about. We wanted to talk about disruptive innovation. We've been talking about invention literacy, and now we're going to kind of talk about how we can see, looking at this idea, what we just did with stuff, even as how we can look at the learning process as reconfigurable, which was something Jay was talking to me about yesterday that I thought was really interesting. I think you actually have slides for this, Jay.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I've just been already talking about this lately. And I actually used to always have this slide that would, I need permission to share screen. No, I don't need permission. Okay, I'm all set.
Okay. Make sure you share sound if you need to.
I don't need any sound. These are just some images. But I used to actually have this, I drew a little image. I forgot, I did kind of draw it. Because I love this idea of like, if once you have an idea in your head, or once you have a thing, looking through that thing or holding that thing in your hands or having that idea in your head makes the thing look reconfigurable. So I use this for World as Construction Kit, and I'm using it in Game Bender to make apps and games and TV shows look like they're rearrangeable. But I also wonder, what can we give ourselves to make, I mean, in this case, a brick building that holds school inside of it reconfigurable, but in more general, the learning process for adults and children. Of course, we're focused on children, but the learning process, how can we come to naturally see it as, oh yeah, we can change that. Like there's things without waiting like for permission or top down like law or funding or something. Like right now, what can we do? So I just made a few slides thinking about terms that can help us think that way. And this is actually not a new term, this is an old term. But in this image, you see a grandma quilting in a classroom, well, not a traditional classroom, but nonetheless. And what you see is the people around her are building and tinkering, not paying attention to the quilting, I guess, quote unquote, at all. But if you reconceive of that a little, you can see that probably they are learning something about quilting, what the machine sounds like, what her body motions are like in their peripheral vision. And they are in some way participating in her quilting, even if they don't speak and even if they don't stand over her shoulder. So these are, I'm just going to run through.
Wait, can I just add to it really quick? Because actually that's the same as modeling. And like when we're teaching reading, and if we may not read to the kid, but if I'm sitting on the couch and I'm reading, I'm modeling the behavior of reading. It's something that my children have grown up wanting to do because they see someone else doing it.
And so if you don't know the word modeling, and if you don't know the word legitimate peripheral participation, or if you
which I didn't,
that concept, but once you get the idea of modeling, you're like, oh, then there's so many ways to communicate besides saying you should read or here's how to read. There's other ways of saying the same thing. And so these are tools that can help you see that right now in your classroom, right? Like if you happen to be a teacher and you're trying to teach something and it's not kind of working out in the, I'm telling you how to do it, I'm showing you that you should be doing it, I'm testing you on it. Well, you have another tool now. You could model doing that in the time where students are working on something else.
Right. And that's like this desk, I always make jokes about it. You can go to the next slide, but I always make jokes that like, this is always a mess because as soon as I leave, even on the weekends, the kids come in and they start making a mess here and saying like, doing kind of the invention literacy idea, like taking this cardboard and going, what could I do with this thing? And like, oh my gosh, Eric will have to tell you later. My daughter made a crazy thing on a fan when she was 4. I just remembered. I forgot about it. So go ahead, Jay.
Oh, it's okay. I won't have time to show all these. I've been working on dozens of tools. So, to really help us rethink learning and trying to put new words out. So here's a kind of a new word. We've all heard of gamification, but I think the important part of gamification isn't really the scoring and isn't really the competition. Those are aspects, but I think the real lubrication is the play inside of gamification. So as educators, some of us like to lean on gamification, and other of us like to criticize gamification. I would just like to propose that gamification is a subset of playification, and playification is what utilizes that dopamine cycle that is actually naturally built into humans when they do play. So that's not a hijacking of the dopamine cycle. It's actually what it's meant there for. And so playing is an okay thing to lean on. And as a subset of playification, sometimes also gamification, but it's a narrow view of playification. I have a bunch of stuff, so I'm just going to find something that's good here. The model of navigating to a certain place that you already know is the map model, but the idea of navigating and you don't know where you're trying to get, but you're using your intuition along the way to see what's interesting is the compass model of navigation. And we never would have achieved this hair blowing back play game that we do every day now at Joy Kids with this COVID filter. If we hadn't had a compass model. So this game was discovered through compassing. The idea of how do you get somewhere quickly? Well, a line is the quickest way, right? Well, that's true if there's no cost to traveling that way at that time, but people's inspirations, motivations, and the landscape often lead to going when the wave comes or going in a curved or wavy way to get there, because sometimes there is a cost to traveling in a straight line or at a certain time. So sometimes it's more efficient actually not to go in a straight line when you're learning something. And I literally have dozens of these, and I'm gonna, write more about these and put up videos about these, but I'll just do one more where what if you aren't getting somewhere with answers in your curriculum? What if you try to get the kids to not give answers, but to give you questions? And what if, and this is just a crazy question, but what if like schools were like awarded money? This is totally crazy, right? I don't think we should do it. But think about what if schools were awarded money based on how many questions the kids asked? It would be a switcheroo. And so it's an interesting perspective to take. So those are a few of the tools that I want to put out in the world. And I feel like these words, these are just words. Some of them were new words, some of them were old words, are inventions of a sort. And they help us also to see the world as reconfigurable, which is how invention slippage starts happening. If you want to multiply inventions, you just convince yourself and the kids in your classroom and the people in your life and the other part of yourself that doesn't believe it, because I said self, but we're going to put that self aside and go to the other part that doesn't want to hear me right now, and tell that self and all the people around you that things are reconfigurable, but you don't tell it always with words, right? There's other ways of saying it, not just with your mouth.
I want to ask Erik a question
Eric's
about.
about to jump off on that if you didn't notice.
Oh, go ahead.
No, there was, but I think that like it's super important that when we talked about this modeling thing, when you do, especially these kinds of inventions or like creative exercises, it's like you were actually touching upon. But I really think that the teacher needs to be in that state doing it, because if you're assessed, all the brakes are on. You can see that it's like if they feel like the assessment is going, if the creative chaos is starting to flow, which is something we try to establish a lot in what we're doing, Lindsay and me, with our education part. We want it to become this flow state, and then you see the teachers should be having their own task. From my point of view, that would be the best thing, because then you see how they're doing it, and they can learn doing these simple things in the beginning. But I just wanted to chime in on how important it is, and the terminology here, once again, like you said, that's one of the mental hooks. If they have a mental hook, it works much better even for the teacher in this case, or somebody using this technique, whatever technique it is.
And politicians know all about this. And so if there's going to be an information war of any sorts, or if there's going to be talking points or anything like that, or what are they called, sound bites or whatever, then we need to have them for positive things too, things like this.
I think Christine in chat is actually really hitting a point that comes with one of our questions. I'm going to try to reform it all into something that makes sense. But she's saying that one of the biggest challenges with students is that they've been trained to be right, and they're so aware of a project with having like step-by-step instructions. They have a lot of problems when they're just given a like, okay, go for it type of thing. But I want to wrap that into the idea of, as an educator, how can we create tools and lessons that actually help kids learn to invent solutions? Because that's what we really want them to do. That's where they get in that creative chaos to like invent a solution to something. There is no step-by-step answer for inventing a solution. So like, how can we get them there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can make it a lot more step-by-step, right? It's not that there's a step-by-step answer to the solution, but it's not like there's a step-by-step answer to solving math problems either. There's just a bunch of practice things you try and you get really good at all of them. Yeah. So I think we can break it down more. And I think sometimes when we think of it as creative chaos, I would say that it can be highly structured. It's just differently structured. It can look like chaos because we don't know the names of the structures. We're not used to seeing them. We don't have words for them. And like Colleen said, the training, I think the word train is really good in that case. Like a train has a lot of momentum, right? There's a lot of momentum that kids have when they come into your classroom. They know the protocol. The protocol is, okay, you already know the answers. You're going to give me some questions. You're going to assess me. And they're not wrong for thinking that. That's totally makes sense. And the last comment I'll say about that is that it's not that we want creative chaos. It's not even that we want structured creative time exclusively, right? It's that there's an imbalance in our learning spaces right now, and the learning is tailored to one type of learner. And some people really learn well that way, but we need to rebalance and have an ecosystemic viewpoint that takes into account many learning styles, and even one person's learning style over time, needing an appetite for different flavors of learning and things like that.
I'm trying to give the wait time that one gives as a teacher. See if Lindsay wanted to add anything.
I have plenty to add, but it's actually really interesting because for a long time, I also thought about like invention literacy as something where it's about making stuff, making physical things, making objects. And is it really about that, or is it about making meaningful objects to you, or is it about the mindset? Like, what is the optimal way to inquire more invention literacy practices in the classroom?
Yeah, I have said and written essays about what the maker movement is not about, and I usually title what it's not about. But right below that, I say it's about making meaning. And the reason that I say that is because the things by themselves really aren't what's important. But what it means to be human is to make a space together, to imbue meaning into society, into family, into ourselves growing as people. And so it doesn't matter if there's a new cryptographic way of anonymously transferring money. What matters is, what does that mean to me and my community? And it doesn't matter if there's a Polaroid spinner necessarily that pictures will spin around. What matters is that somebody's excited now to show off some photos. And so there's a display case, which is a hairbrush, but also a display case. And so the meaning that comes from that is put in it by us. And as humans, we can make meaning. And when we feel like we can't make meaning because everything has a name around us and everything was designated by another person, some meaning, then we feel like we can't be fully human. And if we can break that down and feel like, oh, that meaning that was given is valuable and I can change it and I have an idea for making meaning, and then we feel free. And so that's kind of one definition of freedom, is the ability to make meaning. And that's why being a maker is important, not because I made a cool robot and think people will think it's cool, but because I'm free as an individual in the world of trees and now also buildings and whatever else we've got.
Absolutely.
Erik's going to say
Colleen.
something. Eric.
I'm in the,
Please.
I'm in the whirlwind thing. You start seeing, because the meaning for me I've been making things for so long that it comes really, really natural. And one of the biggest things that all of this gives me is like incredible freedom in choice of things, like objects. It's a lot of times people look at objects as inventions. Like, yeah, I just, for me, the biggest thing is I can buy anything in almost any state. I think I most likely could fix it. And it's such a big empowerment. Like, for example, I just got my new electric cargo bike, and it was so much money off because everything was broken. But it was just going through this, breaking it down. What are the functions? How complex can it actually be? I was going through it, and now it's running like a dream. But I mean, that's one of the things, very direct feeling. The farther you get into this, you can actually research it. It's like playing with what are the moving parts in here. They can be electrical, it can be computer, it can be all kinds of things. And I heard one of my colleagues here, who's in the sales team, he's now deconstructing everything in the office because of his new skill of using the circuit boards. Because then he understands like basically how our dishwasher works. I think I know now. He comes to me today just saying that. I think I know how the dishwasher works. Because there's just these things that you need to do. But obviously there's a lot of brute force product development in there to not let the water just go everywhere in the room. But that would also be really, really fun. Like if you had it on a higher level, make a dishwasher, like a prototype. That would be amazing fun to see all those.
How will you make a dishwasher?
Yeah, an automatic using these circuit boards. You have to build it in one day. Have you seen the toaster experiment? We tried to go from scratch, but you can use parts in that thing. Like, Jay, maybe we should do a dishwasher for our parents. Give
I
them
have a fire hydrant outside and a cart, and we could put something that holds dishes and push the cart past the fire hydrant.
Yeah, and the energy from that spins the things. But yeah, we have to have something catching the porcelain before, and then it can dry. There's so many.
You're going too crazy. So I was also thinking that making meaning versus making things also relates to the idea of documentation, and really like what Michael says here in the chat is valuing process, celebrating process, and celebrating that process. Because I remember doing this project where the Invention Literacy project where Jay came, and I had kids who worked hard every day, and they failed every day at making that invention work. And so that last day when they came to Jay, there was nothing to show him. And instead of like, I think Jay was like, what did you work on, and what have you done, and what have you learned from that? That right there, you learn so much from documentation and process that it's amazing. And we never saw Lindsay's invention because I don't know why. So we have to see Lindsay's.
It's an avant-garde invention. Because, actually, what was kind of making me think about, my background is art, but actually I would even change that now, where I would say I do a little bit of everything. So I have a lot of these strange frames, and I actually found out that I had a creative constraint. I had no tape in the room. I actually ran out of tape today, so I had to find super sculpey clay. I had to use string, earbuds that are broken, these broken pieces. And I was just thinking of making something spin because maybe I'm inspired by this structure here, but I didn't want to use it because I thought it was cheating. It's already a different invention in process. So like flipping this around to wear, to tie. So I think it's a nonsensical avant-garde type art piece, but I think it's like definitely a work in progress. And, Colleen, I think that one of the main classes in school, at least for me, I know now it's changing, that I always thought that I had the freedom was art class. Like art class for a very long time has been one of the classes that celebrates process documentation, is one of the very few places where you do have the freedom to explore. Sometimes like, in the past when you were able to do darkroom, that was a lot of experimentation, darkroom photography. And you actually had a lot of accidents. Like there was a lot of photography that varied in, the style, the look. So I think it kind of like making this nonsensical avant-garde wearable spinning frame work in progress. It made me think about that experience, that it wasn't even about making stuff in there. It was about actually even being allowed to turn in a project that wasn't really good, but I was allowed until the end of the year to rework it and turn it in for a slightly better grade, which I think that still putting a grade on someone's art piece is kind of a bit hard, because it is kind of based off your own perspective, your own taste. But I mean, I think that process is what actually led me into thinking more about invention literacy and why I want to teach it to students. But yeah, so long explanation of my invention, but I don't know, selfie frame, wearable spinning selfie frame.
I actually, I have a degree in photography, and one of my favorite classes was alternative processes, where we played with different processes of like making a photograph. And so maybe that's where like my love of that came, because it was like my favorite thing. And I almost went into printmaking as an MFA because it was so enjoyable. But I feel sad for kids now with digital photography, because they're not just the darkroom, but the color machines. You can like really change the way a photograph looks by like playing with the color of the machine, which I know you can do digitally. It's just not the same as experimenting with your hands and trying stuff out. So we do have one question in here that I think is really good. We should try to answer.
Yeah.
But I also still think the end where Jay and Erik ask the audience questions and they have to answer is still really a fun idea. I still want to make it happen. But I suppose you could ask a question and they could all type it and we could have a waterfall at the end. But the question I thought that was really interesting was Sean was asking about the tension between the maker movement and CTE styled, computer science styled learning, where they do value product and outcome and market value over making meaning. So any suggestions on addressing this tension?
Answer really quick, and so I don't take too much time, but I think on the one hand, it's the question of life, right? Like, if your kid isn't reading yet and they're getting older, do you make them learn to read, or do you wait and see what happens? There's not an answer to that question, right? Necessarily, because it depends on who you are, or do you prepare to be a good employee or good for the marketplace, or do you prepare to be a beautiful human and hope that it works in the marketplace? Again, there's no answer. We all want to say the beautiful human, but we live in a real economy too, so it's a little both, isn't it? So it's a hard question, but I want to try to sidestep it and just say that in a certain way, and say that it's not necessarily attention, because we can have both styles of learning. And in an ideal world, we'd be able to choose for ourselves to engage with either style of learning through time. That takes some of the tension away, but it is attention, and I don't have all the.
I think also, if you look at computer science, there is tinkering there, but there is a lot of things you have to do a certain way. Like when you're writing code, you have to do it a certain way, or you are going to break the thing. So I think that's important to, respect that. That is a thing that it's okay to be, but we can also play with code, and we can play with how we're creating and inventing. And our time is getting to the end. So do you guys want to ask the audience a question? Jay and Eric, do you want to ask the audience a question? They have to type the answer.
The thing was, I'm still stuck on the pants solution. Did anybody get a solution for the pants?
The pants. How else? What else can we do with a pair of pants? I think that's a great question.
That's my question. What else can we do with a pair of pants?
Build a raft. Build a life preserver. New jackets. A hat.
I think
it could be a tourniquet if you're bleeding. It could be a tourniquet.
The thing is, that challenge, I also would like to say, like, this is a challenge you could do, for example, school.
A weapon for Jay. Sorry, Eric, go ahead. Jay type something.
You can, I use those exercises, but you can use, there's two boundaries. Like, one is non-destructive repurposing. The other is the semi-destructive or repurposing with sewing, for example. So
Eric?
Then obviously you'd start, just like we did in the beginning, the play with what they can do. You're doing cool stuff. I can see immediately what that is.
Yeah, Erica said stuff the pants and make bunny ears.
Yeah. My first solution that I did, because I saw this question, Lindsay, in the office, and I'm like, what could I do with it? So I started carrying really heavy bottles of water, like, in the pant legs, just tied up in the bottom, because then you can, like, you follow how it works. You tie the ends of the pants like where your feet should be, and you have the pants over your shoulders.
There was actually a time when I was learning to swim where I had to put air in my pants and use it as a life preserver.
Bottles in the pants, and then you can carry a lot of water there in a very ergonomic way. But I would like more people too. But you see this, we should do this more often. And then now, and like a thing is starting to happen here. Just yeah.
So is there anything Is there anything exciting from Strawbees that you want to share in our last couple of minutes that you
we
want
would
talk
like
about?
to do that. Yes, we would. So I'm going to drop in the chat a link to a very special website. So you may have heard of Strawbees Learning. So now we are upgrading to another platform called Strawbees Classroom, which we actually wanted to have this session with Jay and Eric, Colleen, because I wanted everyone to live on Strawbees Classroom. So it is our new platform for lesson plans and activities, and also linking to great research articles by Jay, sharing your presentation slides, which I really hope that we can share a few of your slides if you're willing to share. Can you share those after this?
Oh, anyone, I can share whatever you want, yeah.
Okay, then I would love to, share all your work and make sure that it lives on Strawbees Classrooms, because we heart Makey, we heart Joylabz. So we want to make sure that we forward your vision on Strawbees Classroom. So there's my quick spiel.
Yay! And I'm gonna. I think when I put out the webinar, I'm gonna put out the Invention Literacy Journal that I've been working on. I still feel like it's half baked, but maybe that's what everybody needs.
Exactly.
Leave it as that. And I will say that tomorrow we are launching new booster kits. So one is called Craft and Code, and one is called Get Up and Go. And if you
Are people allowed to know about that already, Colleen?
It comes out tomorrow at like 8 a.m. They can't buy it yet, so I'm just giving you some.
Well, It's 3 hours until midnight in Sweden. So,
Yeah,
and it's
we're-
actually already tomorrow in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's tomorrow in New Zealand.
It's tomorrow somewhere.
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Congratulations on Strawbees Classroom. I didn't even know that was coming out. That's super cool.
Oh, now
Yeah.
they all want to see the new
Surprise.
kits. Yeah, you have to go. Did you put the link? Oh, you did. You go check out Strawbees Classroom. The kits are exciting, but really what's exciting is what you're going to make with them. And so there's some web pages behind those that we've been working on with our new product development that will be awesome, and everybody's going to see them tomorrow.
Cool.
All right, so this is like, what is this? Happy?
Jazz hands.
Jazz
No.
hands? We'll send love. We need screenshots. Somebody take screenshots. This is this is a
I'm
lot.
taking it.
Yeah, do it.
Goodbye.
Bye.
This is not a sloth, it's a communication device for my kids.
This is
Oh,
a
that's good.
weapon.
That looks like a knife. This is not a can opener. I can't think of anything else to do with it.
It's a cooling device.
Oh yeah, cooling device. Oh, it does feel good.
I know, the metal, so cool.
I bet I could bring
Cool.
this on my paddleboard and have some, like, this would help me somehow paddling, but I'm not sure how.
Can you do that with it? Like celebrate? No,
Yeah.
like finger through it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So actually, if you do sign up for the link for the kits, you will get the email like this evening instead of tomorrow. So Claire just put that in the chat. So anybody who's still here and everybody else, goodbye and so long, farewell. Sign up for Strawbees Classroom.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Yes, it's not a bottle opener; it's a reflector.
Yeah. Yeah,
Stop the recording. I'm going to stop the cloud recording. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Lindsay, for putting this together.
Thank you. I can't wait to put your lovely faces forever in classroom. And coming soon, the Invention Literacy article, which
Yeah.
Jay, you get to see and approve first.
I love the moment with it. I love that Jay still has tape on his shirt. He still got his
Tape is amazing.
tool holder.
Yeah, I gotta get some tape.
It's my wearable maker shirt.
I kind of wish I had gotten some tape and taped my drink to my shirt.
Do it.
What kind of tape is
There's
it?
still time, Colleen.
Oh my gosh. Can I show you an invention even though we're unrecording? Just anyone who's here can see it.
No, it's done.
It's the coolest invention ever.
No more inventing. If
No
you're not
more
recording.
inventing.
It's so cool. I'm going to get it.
Big
Yeah.
quota.
You have to wait.
We have hard stop on inventing now. We can't just go inventing all the time. Like all of a sudden you're. Oh. And,
Wait, the webinar is over, but participants are still here, and we're just
It's going to
hanging
be
out.
hard to explain.
No,
with that.
it's live right now on YouTube.
I
still.
know, I know.
Oh, it is? I thought it wasn't. I turned it off.